I invite Dr. Divya Upadhyay. Dr. Divya Upadhyay is a postdoctoral fellow in the Civil Engineering Department at IIT Gandhinagar and the co-founder and director of AirSQ ClimeSouls Private Limited, specializing in AI-driven flood prediction, climate resilience, and risk management. Her research focuses on climate variability, hydrological modeling, and infrastructure resilience, with an emphasis on the extreme event, water resources, sustainable agriculture, and reservoir operation in the Indian context. She has extensive experience in uncertainty quantification, extreme precipitation analysis, stream flow estimation, and optimizing reservoir operations for adaptive water management. With a civil and environmental engineering background, she has also taught at Nirva University and LD College of Engineering, mentoring students in hydrology and climate resilience. I invite her for a talk and discussion including on the reservoir operation in Narmada Basin.
Divya, your time is 40 minutes. And that includes the discussion.
Sure. I'll try to make it short. First of all, good afternoon. Yeah, thanks. First of all, good afternoon to everyone. And I would like to thank Professor Alok and Professor Pranav Mahapatra for giving the opportunity to present my work in front of eminent distinguished speakers. This talk is basically more bit of technical, but I'll try that I'll not include technical details, and I'll try to give gist and why we are doing this kind of research. And most of the earlier talks were related to what is the history and what is all about the Narmada Basin. So this talk is that what we can do for the future, how we can make this area, our means Narmada Basin and Gujarat area or any other area climate resilient. So my topic of my talk is reservoir operation in Narmada Basin. So I'm postdoctoral fellow at IIT Gandhinagar. I have completed my PhD from IIT Gandhinagar, and recently we have started a new venture that is AirSQ Climate Solutions, and I'm co-founder and So basically in this company we are trying to make our cities climate resilient. So our first main target for first venture is to make our city flood resilient cities. So as we know, we all know that this is our basin, and in this Narmada Basin there are many reservoirs are there. So what is the function of the reservoir? Main function of the reservoir is to there are different objectives for different reservoirs. So some reservoirs are only for the flood control. Some reservoirs are to provide the water for the domestic water supply, irrigation water supply, or industrial water supply. And some reservoirs are for generating the electricity, hydropower production. So my main focus is for the Sardar Sarovar Dam, and this is before going to the different objective function of this reservoir, first of all, when we see any reservoir, what is the main task that we are thinking about? The first thing is we want to know that how we should operate this reservoir, right? So we have reservoir, we know that some water is coming to the reservoir, and we another thing comes into our mind. So that is the inflow coming to the reservoir, and another thing is what are the different types of demand, or what is the objective of this particular reservoir, and based on the demand we need to take a decision that how much water we need to release from the reservoir. So these are the type of decision we need to make from the reservoir. So when we are talking about the inflow to the reservoir, so we know that there is one basin, and in this basin some rainfall is going on, water is flowing from one place to another place, and we need to first quantify that how much amount of water is coming to that reservoir, and based on that only we can take certain decisions, right? So first thing is we need to quantify that what is the inflow coming to the reservoir, and another thing is we need to quantify that what is the amount of water that, or what is the demand that we need to fulfill from this particular reservoir, what type of demand we are targeting. For example, domestic water demand, irrigation water demand. So quantification is main important thing. Once we quantify, then only we can take certain decisions. So for this, when we are saying that, okay, we want to make our system climate resilient. So for that climate resilience, first thing we should know that what are the different factors which are affecting to that, and based on that we can exactly quantify that amount of water which we are receiving. So this Sardar Sarovar Dam, as we had already discussed, this is multi-purpose reservoir, and the first objective of this is we want to make it flood resilient, or we can say that whatever water is coming to that particular reservoir, we need to manage in a such a way that downstream should not be flooded. So that is the first objective. Second objective is we need to fulfill the domestic water demand from this particular reservoir. As we know that our precipitation or rainfall pattern is not the uniform pattern. So we are receiving 70 to 80% of the water only during the monsoon months. So for what about non-monsoon months or for the summer months? We require certain water for the drinking purpose. So we need to store that particular water, and depending upon the demand only, we need to take decision that how much water we need to release from the reservoir so that we can fulfill the domestic water demand. Similarly, we also have to provide the water for the irrigation purpose for the proper yield. Similarly, for the industrial water demand also, we need to fulfill from the reservoir. And another important point is we need to produce the electricity through the hydropower plant. So hydropower production is also, so these are the purposes for this Sardar Sarovar Dam. So earlier I talked that we need to know that what is the inflow coming to the reservoir and how much demand we need to satisfy. So for it mainly depends on the precipitation and temperature. So this precipitation and temperature, for the future, how we will know that how much water or how much precipitation will be receiving in this particular Narmada basin. So for that there are certain earth system models are there. So this earth system, what it does that, imagine one globe. So for this globe, it is divided into different parts, and mathematically we consider all the processes going on in the atmosphere, in the oceanic circulation, interaction between the atmosphere and oceanic circulation, and considering all the processes, putting into the mathematical equations, and for each of the grid, we have certain parameter, or for example, precipitation, that is the output from this earth system models. These outputs are based on certain equations, certain assumptions. So it is characterized by various uncertainties. So we cannot say that in, let's say for example, 2030 in June 1st, this much amount of precipitation we will receive. So one model says we will get 100 units, another model says it is 120 units, another model says 90 units. So we have to consider this whole range. So it is called as uncertainty. So my objective is we need to quantify what is the uncertainty associated with the inflow, and for example precipitation, and for the temperature. If we know that what is the uncertainty associated with the precipitation and the temperature, we can quantify what is the inflow coming to the reservoir. Similarly, precipitation, temperature also affect what is the water demand for the irrigation purpose. So that is also associated. So we need to quantify both from the inflow side and from the demand side. So once we know the uncertainty and we incorporate that information for our decision making, then whatever decision that we are taking, that will be more reliable, or we can have some confidence on that. So one specific, so there are different types of uncertainty associated with that. That is, one is model uncertainty. What are the models, Earth system model I was talking about. So what are the models? Depending upon models, model uncertainty is there. Second one is internal variability, that what are the different types of processes that we are considering. So in simple terms, let's say we are going from one place to another place daily. Okay, so for that we are following certain path. So for example, from one place to another place, if we are going daily, so and if we observe closely our footsteps, that is not exactly matching. For example, for Monday we are following certain path. For Tuesday we are following another path. Some slight deviation is there. So that is some uncertainty is there, and that is this type of uncertainty we cannot reduce. So it is also called as irreducible type of uncertainty. Whatever we do, we are not saying that okay, some obstacle is there, because of that obstacle we are changing the path. There is no obstacle, there is no external changes. Other than without external changes also, we are having some deviation. So that is called as internal variability, or we can call is that a irreducible type of uncertainty. So without, means in absence of any external sources, this type of uncertainty will be there for the whatever variable that we are getting from the climate models. So this is internal variability. Another example is some obstacle is there. For example, in this case, panda is there. So if we know that some obstacle is there, we are bound to change the path. So this is external variability. So here my focus is mainly on the internal variability. It is like irreducible. Why I am focusing is because in future also, whenever we will have some extra knowledge, then also this type of uncertainty will be there due to the processes which are going inside the or atmospheric circulation or oceanic circulation is there. Because of this type of uncertainty is there. So so as I was talking that. So here we have precipitation and temperature. So in precipitation and temperature, so there are, as I was talking, that there are some models. So it is in simple terms, there are some certain equations we put, and based on that equations, we predict that this will be the time series of precipitation in future. So for example, if it is monthly time series, we say that in average temperature or average precipitation for this month will be this one, next month this one. So we have some certain time series, and we use that time series for taking certain decisions. And here from the precipitation and from temperature, we know the water cycle. Right? So if we simulate all the processes going on in the water cycle, we can estimate what is the stream flow, or what is the flow which will come to the reservoir, or for instance any point in the river. So if we can quantify that what is the amount of water we will receive in that particular reservoir, so based on that we can form our operations that and based on that we can take certain decision that and here I'm talking about the decision like we have certain heights, let's say X height of the reservoir water, and if Y amount of water we are receiving, how much water we need to release from the reservoir, that type of decision that we want to take it. So here if we see, so these are nothing but the monthly variation of precipitation, temperature, and based on that stream flow. So as we know that mainly we receive precipitation only during the monsoon months. So that's why we have higher precipitation in monsoon, and based on that we have higher stream flow during the monsoon months. But when we are talking about the demand, we will not say that drinking water for non-monsoon months I will not drink any water. So for drinking water and for the irrigation purpose, based on the what is the cropping pattern, based on that we require certain amount of water. And if we are not taking proper care and if we are not forming our release policy or reservoir operation properly, we can lead to this kind of situation. This photograph is last year Vadodara flood. So what was happened that in the Sardar Sarovar Dam, the rainfall was not at the downstream. Rainfall was on the upstream. And as the reservoir was at not at the 80 or 90% of the capacity, they received additional amount in the upstream, so they have to release that water from the reservoir, and due to this release of water, it resulted into flood-like situation. But if we are aware that this is the probability of water which will be received at the upstream, then and we have kept some certain buffer, so we could have accommodated that kind of water into the reservoir, and this flooded situation could have been avoided. So this is the one of the example that I was giving. Sorry, sir.
Why riverbed
Sir, what happened that in the Sardar Sarovar Dam, they have certain policy or certain rules. So what they are saying that towards the end of the month, so we are saying that June, July, August and September, for the September month, they are saying that towards the end of the September month, that reservoir should be in full capacity, so that during the summer month, we will be able to provide water for the irrigation and domestic water supply. So because of that, that reason, they have try to fill that reservoir, and if they know earlier.
since September 6th,
Yes, sir.
reservoir is being filled less?
Yes, sir. So if we know that this is the probability of water which can receive from the upstream side, so instead of let's say 80% of the full capacity, we could have reduced that. Instead of 80, we can say that only 70% of the reservoir should be full, so that 10% of the more additional buffer we can have. So this is the basin, and using this basin information, we calculate that what is the amount of water we will receive at the Sardar Sarovar Dam, and my study area for calculating. So there are two aspects. One is the supply side, another is for the demand. So for demand side, I have considered the area, Gujarat area. So for domestic. So these are the data that I have used for my study. So I have used the climate data. So as I was telling that there are certain climate models are there which will do all the processes.
Saying line storage capacity up to 138 liter. Can you say how much storage billion acre feet?
So that is 5.8 billion cubic meter.
Got it. Yeah, that is it.
So for that I have used climate data and observed data, reservoir data, that is what is the storage area relationship. Irrigation water demand, I have considered different crops are grown in that Gujarat region. I have considered for demand, calculation of demand, I have considered only Gujarat region. So this is the objective of the reservoir operation. So first, so as I have told that there are five aspects. One is flood control, domestic water demand, irrigation water demand, then industrial water demand and hydropower production. So when we are considering the demand from the reservoir, means what is the release that we are taking, and so for that I have given different priorities. As means when we are releasing water from the reservoir, we cannot say that this water will only be used for the irrigation water demand or industrial water demand. So total water, and from the total water demand, I have given priority for the calculation that how much drinking water demand we will be able to satisfy using this from this reservoir. So first priority is given to the drinking water demand, second is irrigation water demand, and third priority is given for the industrial water demand. What does it means? First one is whatever water is released, first whatever drinking water is there, that demand should be satisfied. Whatever remaining water is there, that water will be used for the irrigation water demand, and once that is satisfied, then only that water will be utilized for the industrial water demand. And another assumption I did, that whatever water is released, all the water can be utilized for the hydropower production. So here this red line, this is the, so for each of the objective I have defined certain targets, that this is the target I want to fulfill, and based on that I will calculate what is the performance of the release policy that we are suggesting. So for irrigation water demand, I have considered total 17 districts which are coming into the command area. And we have seen that total 28 different crops are grown in this particular area. And considering the precipitation and temperature data, I have calculated what is the crop evaporation or net water demand for the different crops. So these are the uncertainty associated with that. So during the monsoon months, we have higher uncertainty based on the inflow coming to the reservoir. Then for the drinking water demand, I have simply considered the 135 LPCD for per capita water demand for each of the person. So 135 multiplied by population in that particular area, and for industrial water demand I have considered constant 246.7 divided by 12. So equally for all the months industrial water demand is required. So that is my assumption for this particular study. So I'll not go into this detail, but this is the overall methodology I have followed in order to derive the optimal release policy. So first objective is we need to calculate what is the demand for obtaining, what is the demand for, means for which we are obtaining the optimal policies. And second one is what is the stream flow, what is the uncertainty associated with the stream flow that I have calculated using the hydrological models. And once we know these two terms, that is the demand and the stream flow for different historical period and for the future period, and based on that I have considered dynamic programming. So what is the usual practice? They have the standard operating policies at the reservoir. So based on the standard operating policies, they will say that okay, if this is the height, means depth of the water, and if X amount of water you are receiving, this is the release policy. They are not considering the uncertainty in the future, what can be the uncertainty in the future or near 2-3 days, what amount of water they may be receiving. So they are not considering the long-term uncertainty. So my work is to consider the uncertainty associated with the inflow and the demand, and based on that we can calculate that what is the how much water we need to release, so that overall yearly the performance from the reservoir in terms of reliability, in terms of resiliency, in terms of vulnerability from the reservoir. So here, this is the dynamic programming. I'll not go into detail, but here we are saying that we have one time series, means we have from one particular model, we have one time series, and based on that we are taking decision. But in my work, what I am saying that considering the uncertainty, instead of one time series, if we have multiple time series, and so that the sample space is increasing, if we are incorporating that all the samples, and if we are taking decision based on that all the time series, that what is the reliability or resiliency or vulnerability of the from the reservoir. So here, how we are saying that whatever release policies are there, whatever operations are there, what is the performance? So we are checking in terms of reliability. So reliability means how likely system is to fail. That what is the probability that system will be fail. Here we are saying that failing means, if I'll give example in terms of flooding. So here we are saying that this is my X level is my target. System fails if water goes above the target level. So that is the mean that I have considered for calculating the reliability. Resiliency means how quickly it recovers. If the system is failing, how quickly it recovers, whether in the next month water level is going below the target level, or whether it is staying above the target level or danger level. And resilience on vulnerability means how severe, if it is going above the target level, how much water level is going above the target level. That is nothing but the vulnerability. So these are some of the results that we are getting, and here this diamond shape, it shows if we are considering all the information, if we are incorporating uncertainty into the decision making, then what is the reliability that we are getting in for different aspects. For example, flood control, domestic water demand, irrigation water demand, and industrial water demand, and hydropower production. Similarly for resiliency and vulnerability. So this is the one time series that we are considering. So here, if we observe the time series that it is reaching to the optimal solutions, means it is incorporating all the uncertainty into that, and it is giving optimal values. I am not going to. So these are some of the key points. Here, higher reliability and resiliency and lower vulnerability for all the aspects can be achieved by incorporating the uncertainty. So here, if we see this plot, so this one? Yeah. So here in this plot, if we see that this one, this is the reliability if we incorporate all the uncertainty into that. So we are saying it is close to 1 means 100% reliability. So here we can see that if we incorporate all the information, 100% surely we can say that in future we will be able to supply at least domestic water demand with 100% reliability. And for another So for reliability for irrigation, we can say that 59 or close to 60% of the reliability we can achieve. Thank you.
There are certain real-time gaps beyond.
Yes, sir.
But when you said 9% of irrigation
Is achieved. You don't have field data.
Yes, sir.
Data are provided to you by irrigation department. Now really what happens when you irrigate a farm, they flood it. Flood is not the rule at Sardar Sarovar. Only 18 inches of water will be provided. They take more than 18 inches of water in the initial phase and tail end don't get water. So irrigation efficiency is just 30% at Sardar Sarovar level. Number one, you have to check this. You have mentioned 59%. That is not true. एवरेज हो जाता है, आगे वाला ज़्यादा ले ले, पीछे वाला को नहीं जाता है, एवरेज हो जाता है. Second, there are certain water losses, and you don't have data about water losses, and you know what water losses means: canal breakage, water theft, and misuse of water by other sources. So I would request you to collect sample data from field and match it with the data provided by SSNNL. Because at SSNNL, as I said yesterday, a water users association is supposed to go to field and you will find that they are not functional. So this model would work best on table. It wouldn't work in the field. person who knows about field situation will clear say this is eyewash. So I would request your company to go to field, collect sample data, match them with the data provided by SSNNL and find out the deviation. Okay?
I have a few questions actually, particularly probably not very different from what he asked. First thing is that there are inconsistencies in the model. Let me tell you, first thing is that precipitation increase you showed from 1925 to 2099. Precipitation increase you showed from 12 to 16, whatever unit it has. But stream flow increased by almost 100%. If you go to one of the previous initial slides, yes, here. See, precipitation from 1985 is around 12 maximum peak, and it is probably 2099 it is only 16, only 25% increase. But if you come to the stream flow, it increased from 1985 it is something around 10, and it is in 2099 it has increased to 100% increase. Am I correct?
Okay. So here, figure B, it shows the monthly variation. So it is showing the uncertainty. So this one is showing the uncertainty. So this one is upper bound and lower bound. So this is showing the uncertainty in the data itself. So okay.
So then also you will see that this two stream flow and precipitations are not consistent. Okay, so this is one point. Second point is that this water demand increased from 1985 to 2099. That is the last plot F. So that increase is minimal. That is, I don't think it is correct. Just consider the mean numbers.
This one?
Yeah.
So this one is the total water demand. So it includes irrigation water demand, industrial water demand. Industrial water demand is constant, so I am not taking into account.
So you took that constant from 1985 to 2099?
Industrial water demand I took constant. Yeah.
No, that you cannot, because industry is increasing so rapidly, exponentially. How can you take that? That is one of the most important water consumption present.
Yeah, I fully agree with you, but that was the assumption that I have taken because I was not getting the proper data here. The area was, my objective was to consider the spatial distribution, and this type of data is not available, unfortunately.
One more comment actually, last comment. See, uncertainty is going.
Data are available, you
but
to collect data.
Yes.
Wrong data are available with SSNL.
And one last point.
Yes, sir.
You are estimating the uncertainty, you are making the life of policymakers and dam operators complicated, not simplified. Because if you report some uncertainty that I have a prediction that this 50 plus minus 50, they will say that there is no point of this. So you should focus more reducing the uncertainty instead of reporting the uncertainty. So that is the last comment.
So,
thank you.
Yeah.
White, please.
Like live storage capacity and some more. So you have calculated. Actually, you have mentioned some data about Sardar Sarovar dams, like live storage capacity and all others more. So you have calculated that data, otherwise you have collected from secondary, some sources.
I have collected from the website only. SSN.
Okay. So what will happen in future if siltation and sedimentation will increase? So that capacity will be same, otherwise it will change.
If siltation is deposition is there, that capacity is will change. But here for calculating this, what I have considered, that I have considered the depth of the water. Some depth of the water I kept it reserved, assuming that in future some siltation process will be there. So that depth of the water, so minimum water level I have maintained for this thing.
Okay. And also, I had one more question, but he already asked that. Industrial, because industrialization is increasing day by day, so you should, of course, focus on that. Thank you.
Yes, I fully agree. But that was the limitation of my study. I have considered it that one. And another thing, I would like to answer your last question. So, yes. So if you see here, this one is the data, and rather I'll go with this one. So there are different types of uncertainties, right? One is model uncertainty, one is internal climate variability. When we are considering the model uncertainty, this uncertainty, this plus sign, okay, I'll go with this one. So if we see this plus, this is nothing but it is representing the model uncertainty. So this range is very wide. But when we are considering one model, and if we consider the internal variability in that particular model, this uncertainty is also is reducing, because it is coming from one particular model. And when we are considering this, the diamond shape, it is the result or policies that we are getting when we incorporate all the information into that. So it is nothing but it is not the range, but it is one value. So in a way, we are reducing the uncertainty. We are not reporting the higher uncertainty. Yeah.